So you need to be silly with this stuff, you need to encourage them because of that. So one of the things that we do is that we get people to stop and think, and we get people to draw, and we get people to do mood boards, and we get people to use their senses, come to your senses. So we use senses as a technique. So we'll say, for example, what does your company smell like? What does your company taste like? And you can actually run a full day on that. You say to everybody, you three, you bring something to do with sight. You three bring something touch. You bring, divide them all up, get them all to bring a load of stuff, and then use the stuff to create a sort of three-dimensional montage of how they want to, so just, because all this stuff does is gives you different perspectives. So when we were working with Arup, they came up with, our company fizzes with intelligence. Now, you'd never ever have come up with the word fizzes in a normal corporate strategic conversation, because it's not a word that you would use, but it's wonderful. Right? And I'd encourage you to keep reading and keep studying this new piece of work that's just come out by this guy, Richard Thaler. And I'm a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, and I went to see Richard talking and got his book and studied this stuff. And this is nudge. And nudge is all about, I'm not going to tell you do this thing, but I'm going to kind of just push you gently so that you'll want to do it. So this is a nudge. And these are ashtrays outside a bank for the employees.
Yeah.
And I think that's a brilliant nudge. Yeah. And that is, to me, innovation in communications. So I'm working a lot with the government at the moment on smoking cessation techniques. And I'm saying to them, don't say to people, stop smoking. Because as you know, if you studied NLP, all they'll hear is smoking, and you'll want to smoke. What you do is you nudge them, just make them think for themselves. So as a creative technique, you say, okay, so that's a nudge. It is the work by Richard Thaler. So there's the underpinning, there's the example. Right, now you go and work in a group and come up with have as many nudges as you can to achieve whatever. That's another technique. So when we put nudge on our list, that's what we do. Another one is deletion, another technique. And deletion is where you list all the things that are fundamental and then you take one away. So the classic is, list all the things. Could you do it on the board? Yeah. Just shout out to Mark, what are the things that are fundamental to running a restaurant?
Food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Customers.
Chef.
What was that one?
Chef.
Chef. Space. Yeah.
Service.
Yeah.
Right, one more.
Cutlery.
Okay. Cutlery. All right, choose to take one away. Food. Okay, we'll take food away. Right, we've got a restaurant now. It still has to be a restaurant, and it still has to make money. How do you make a restaurant which doesn't serve food make money?
Bring their own.
Yes. And charge for what?
Drink.
And
Premises.
and
Entertainment.
yeah. Because what you do is when you take one thing away, you turn up the volume on the other things. So you'd have the most fantastic range of drinks. You'd have the most wonderful chef. A chef, maybe you bring your own bag and you cook the roast. So actually what you've done is you've created something totally new by taking something that, So if you look at the recession and you look at government or look at the police, right, we have to take that whole shift out of this shift pattern. Most people will go, can't be done. Because. And what you do is you say, no, it can be done because we're going to innovate around it. So. Dugard has been quoted as saying it's the most important word as we're coming out of the recession. And if you read about it in any of the magazines, have a look for it online and you'll find all sorts of references and people talking about it. But actually Dugard came from in India, they'll tell you that they learn to divide before they learn to multiply. And in our culture, we learn to multiply before we learn to divide. And what they mean by that is, if I was in India and they said, can you invent a new one of these? They would think, right, okay, new one of those. Right, we've only got that or less. So we'll have to make a cheaper one, a smaller one. Whereas we would go, right, okay, well, we can make it bigger and add bells and whistles and a handle and a thing and an extra thing that it sits in. Do you know, so we're actually multiplying and they're dividing. So you come to the recession and you say, right, you've got less staff, you've got less money, you've got less resources. In India, they're going, great, because that's what we're really used to. Whereas here, we're going, oh no, I can't do it. No, wrong mindset. So whose mindset's going to win in that scenario? Do you know? So this is some of the stuff that's being quoted in The Economist about Jugaad. It's actually a Hindi word, and that Hindi, that Sanskrit was the Hindi. So one of the things that makes you innovate is something that makes you mad, as in angry, or sad. So kind of innovation comes from your guts and your soul quite often, where you see, you know, the creators and the innovators. So in India, this is very sad, right? And it kind of makes you mad. And do you know Tata, the organisation? The chief executive was sick of seeing this because this is very dangerous. Look at this, baby. 1, 2, 3, 4 children and mum and dad on a bike. So what they said was, look, a family can't afford more than a certain price, but we have to give them a car. So they had a really tight brief. And basically, instead of sort of multiplying, they divided. And they came up with, I think it's something like 62 new patented inventions in order to create this car. Now, recently, this car has been known for like blowing up and going on fire and breaking down and all sorts. But that's innovation, do you know what I mean? They fail and then they'll get it right. I think it's pretty smart, actually. And as soon as they start selling them here, I think I'll probably get one. So, random words is one of our favourite techniques, and I wanted to use this one for you guys to experiment. And are we going to finish at 3, or when do you want to take this to? What time do you have to go?
I don't have to go at any particular time.
Right, okay. Well, we'll go.
You need to go to Manchester.
Yeah, I've got a train to Manchester.
What time do you train?
I need to look at the ticket, but I need to get away from here sort of between 3:30 and 4.
Oh, okay, fine, okay. So if we go for 3:30 and see where we go. Quite often we would
People can go on with that.
we'd run these days from like 10 till 4, but I always try and finish at like 3:45 or 3:30, because I always think it's nice to let people go early, and also there's only so much you can handle. Random word is a great technique to do just after lunch, and it doesn't have to be random word, it's just random, okay? Because if I said to you, give me a new idea for ice cream, what are you going to give me?
Sausage and banana.
Mm-hmm. So a flavour?
Round.
A shape, right? Mm-hmm. Right, it's really hard. So now what we'll do is we'll play the MPD game, all right? So what you do is you get people to select a random object. They list, you get a list of random words. This is one way to do it. And you keep the numbers secret. So I'm not going to show you the number, but you have to shout out from 1 to 8. So
4.
man. So what you do then is you write down all the things that are to do with man, and it might be Isle of Man, it might be Yellow Man. Yellow Man's a sweet in Northern Ireland, by the way. Or it might be man-sized, or, you know, you just write those sort of things down, and then you use those things to create new ice cream.